Next up, a really hot topic and is one of the biggest and most common questions that centres have when moving into this space, essentially. Our Head of International Relations, Tom Dore, is joined by Sarah Trowler-Wren and Derek Johnstone to discuss safeguarding best practice in esports. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see so many people here today. And thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the effort to come. Hugely important issue, and an issue for us to discuss. If I'm perfectly honest, one that maybe the esports industry isn't doing as much as it could or as much as it should, or even is necessarily conscious that it doesn't know this yet. Now, I'm conscious we're sitting in a room full of educators, and my background, I for those of you who don't know me, I've been involved with British esports pretty much since the start, since Chester set up and founded the British Esports Association, as we were back then, back in 2016. I was responsible for the pilots of the Student Champs, which has now obviously led on to where we are, and I led the development of the BTEC. I'm also a teacher, and I've taught for the last 18 years across the full spectrum of state, independent, and alternative provision. So I have a background in traditional sport as well. I'm a cricketer, I'm a golfer, and I see the benefits of both. But I also see what's happening in sport to do with safeguarding and the expectations of what happens with us in schools when we're leading trips or any of that sort of stuff. So that's why we then started the journey we have as British esports down the safeguarding route. A hugely important area for us. One that needs discussion, that we need to start these conversations. We have started these conversations, and this is why I'm very proud to be joined by the two colleagues on the stage at the moment, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a minute. But we need to start these conversations, we need to talk about the risks, and then we need to talk about the solutions, and that's what we're going to try and do today for the next sort of 20 minutes or so, and then we'll leave 5 minutes at the end for Q&A if we can. We want to identify the risks, we want to recognise those risks, but then we want to we'll change the narrative, make it a little bit more positive, and actually talk about solutions and what we can do and what we should be doing. Okay, Sarah, over to you. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I'm Sarah. I work at GoBubble. So I look after the sales and marketing department of our organisation and work very closely with our co-founders who are our safeguarding leads. And yeah, we've got education and esports are very close to our hearts. Background of the business, we started off as eCadets, which provided an online platform for children in education, all with regards to safeguarding and teaching them how to be safe online. And then GoBubble School was developed from that, which was creating a safe space for children to actually engage from a social aspect as an alternative platform to the likes of potentially Facebook and WhatsApp. And from then, the technology that was built sort of grew its own legs and became so much more than just a bubble, I guess, for children at school level to talk to each other. And we've now become an organisation that very much supports organisations globally to create safer, healthier and kinder spaces online. Our team, our board of advisors, are all sort of ex-trust and safety leads from the likes of Google, Facebook and Twitter. Henry, one of our co-founders, he's an ex-police sergeant and is also the safeguarding advisor for the Global Esports Federation. So we work very closely with the British Esports as well as the Global Esports Federation, and we continue to sort of grow within the esports sector and provide an emotion AI content moderation tool that is continually there to create a safer space and protect digital communities.
Thank you. Thank you, that's great. Derek, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Derek Johnstone. I'm Senior Consultant for the NSPCC, leading on online safety. I have a background of policing. I was a police officer for 30 years. And after that, I moved to the British Embassy in Thailand, where I was Vice Consul leading on child safeguarding. Did a lot of work with NGOs in the area of online safety, online gaming, with international schools and organisations within the Far East. Did a master's degree to keep up my safeguarding knowledge on international safeguarding with a focus on online harms, because the landscape was changing so much. I needed to keep myself updated as well. So very pleased to be working with Tom and British Esports on a number of projects that we'll no doubt talk about a little bit later.
Thank you very much. I think it's worth mentioning I'm the DSL for British Esports. We very much followed the traditional sporting model and the model that you'd expect in schools. We're very proud to have worked with the NSPCC to help develop our own internal policies and procedures. All our staff, all our staff have annual safeguarding training exactly the same way as we do in schools, the keeping children safe in education stuff that we have to do on an annual basis. We at British Esports do that. You will obviously have seen the work that we then do at the start of the champs, making sure or you might not see that actually, all the volunteers or all our admins are DBS checked, and they all go through the Keeping Children Safe in Education training as well. So we're trying to take best practice from traditional sport and working with the NSPCC to try and raise awareness and really put standards in place that maybe don't exist. So Derek, I'm going to come back to you and sort of, can you try and outline for us or highlight some of the risks that you see as NSPCC involved in the online space, involved in online gaming with esports and that sort of stuff, the concerns, the issues that the NSPCC are flagging up?
Yeah. Online harms risks to children are well documented, which is why we have the online safety bill going through at the moment. And the harms that we're talking about, the potential harms to children range from online child sexual abuse, online bullying, grooming by offenders, viewing harmful content. If we just focus alone on the threat of sexual abuse to children, the National Crime Agency estimate that there's up to 850,000 persons in the UK that pose a threat online to children. So it is a very real risk. So we have a child protection unit in sport, as well as an online safety section within NSPCC. I'm part of the consultancy and training. So we provide online training, online safety training, consultancy services for all types of organizations, helping them to draft policies and procedures, etc. But the problem that esports has that, unlike traditional sports, if we take football for an example, who has a governing body, who has a safeguarding framework in place, with esports they don't have that, and there is no governing body. I guess if there was a governing body, someone was taking the lead, it would perhaps be the publishers. So the emphasis really falls on all the different organizations, the esports teams, British Esports Federation, etc., to have their own house in order, to have their own policies and procedures and training. So that's pretty much where we come in, advising, working with the British Esports, but also global esports, to try and ensure that the industry does take safeguarding seriously. We get those frameworks in place. We get the training, the policies and procedures to protect children, but also vulnerable adults as well who are involved in the esports industry.
Are there sort of specific flags or specific risks that you see, or you can identify for us where you see specific risks within linked to online gaming and that online space at all?
Again, if we go back to traditional sports, if we look at football, the Sheldon inquiry that highlighted the risks in football, and that's in a local context. If you've got coaches who have access to children, who are trusted by children, in esports you have coaches, you have adults that have access to children, and the risks are exacerbated because they're on an online space. They're possibly using encrypted networks. So that's that heightened risk to children on the online space that working within a physical environment you perhaps don't have. So I think that makes the risks a lot worse than the online world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an example that some of you may have heard me give before, is that my son's 11. I wouldn't dream of taking him to the local park where there's loads of adults playing football that I don't know, give him his boots, give him his ball, and say, right, I'll pick you up in half an hour, off you go. But that is happening in the online space, that there are young people playing with unknown adults with communication going on between them. And those adults can be anywhere in the world. And that, as a parent, as a teacher, as somebody leading this space, leading the space in the ecosystem, that's simply not acceptable. And to start these conversations in the industry around this and what we can do and the solutions we can put into place is critical. And that's why we're hosting events like this. This is why we're hosting forums like this, to at least start these conversations. So Sarah, over to you. Can you talk a little bit about more the social media side of things, where obviously we know social media is so important within the industry and so important to the young people who we work with. Can you highlight some of the risks and some of the things you see around that?
Absolutely. I mean, the tool that we have, the content moderation tool, works really easy. It plugs very much seamlessly into social media platforms. So we help to protect not just individuals, but teams. We look after currently lots of sports teams, a handful in the top 5 of the Premiership League as well as globally. We work with Angel City and the A-Leagues, and we work with teams and individuals. So we look after official corporate pages with social media. We look after teams, players, and also individuals, and extend that also to families, because we understand that obviously online abuse and that world of toxicity sometimes does actually overlay into families, and that can affect their children. And the way that we work is we literally plug seamlessly into those platforms. We moderate everything, all multimedia channels, so across GIFs, emojis, videos. We're going into live streaming at the moment. Everything, really. So the way that the AI works is it's also very cleverly built so that it understands emotion. So as you can imagine, in gaming, there's also a lot of visual things happening. It's not just keywords. And the tool is built to be able to understand and also build in the fuzzy logic side of things as well behind it. So it's very clever. It's very emotive in the sense that it understands the context, the behaviors. And the way that the back end works is that we work with you as the individual or as the client to decide on the severity levels. So the AI decides what they deem as red, as in critical, what needs to be hidden, what needs to be not shared. And you, as the user, also are able to actually view the QA side of things and actually decide if the AI decision is correct. There's a calibration period that we work with you to actually determine that as well.
So it's essentially what we're trying to do here is actually address the issues of the toxicity that we know exists and the keyboard warrior mentality, essentially, isn't it? In a proactive way, because that's again, we have a role here to play with the young people in terms of their education or education of them around the impact of what they're saying and what they're doing. And it's this type of AI that will really help us to add another layer of protection, I guess. So, Derek, Sarah's sort of segued into sort of maybe the positive side of or the solutions to potentially some of the issues around the toxicity and that type of thing. What else do you see us being able to do moving forward? The positive solutions, if you like.
Somehow esports has to come up with some kind of safeguarding framework, which is going to be difficult because there isn't an equivalent of the FA or FIFA. And I don't think there can be, because the nature of esports is so diverse, a number of different games, a number of games publishers. So really we need all organizations to start, and if they haven't already got policies and procedures in place, training of all staff, of all professionals, training for parents and carers, but also raising awareness for children. I know that schools are doing a lot of work on online safety, highlighting the risks. So I think we need to have an emphasis on that within organizations as well. For organizations to have somebody specifically trained and nominate a professional who is a designated safeguarding lead, a designated safeguarding officer for all institutions, for all organizations that are in esports. I think if we get all these in place and also have reporting mechanisms where children feel comfortable that if they are exposed to an online harm in whatever nature in an esports tournament or whilst playing esports, they know who to turn to within that organisation, and that's well signposted and documented. But as well as that, signpost to Childline, to other organisations who can offer children support. I think it's very, very important that children have that vehicle to speak to an anonymous hotline. It's been documented that it's very, very difficult to disclose any type of abuse. If they have a hotline, a helpline such as Childline, it gives them the confidence to then speak to somebody and then perhaps speak to a responsible adult in their life after they've spoken to Childline. So I'd recommend within your policies and procedures, certainly highlight our Childline helpline for children as well. Give them that avenue to disclose anything that's happening in their life, both offline and online.
Thank you. I don't know if you saw it on the BBC Tech page over the last couple of days. Ubisoft made quite a big announcement, I guess, that they're working with a police group, a centre up in Newcastle, Northumbria, where they can report incidences that happen within Rainbow Six or within other of the Ubisoft games directly to this group at Northumbria Police, which is a huge step forward. It raises lots of questions. To be honest, in terms of where's the police getting the money from to fund that type of offering, and are they opening the floodgates to something there that maybe isn't their responsibility? However, at the top end, it is a huge step forward, because where can we go when there is the hate, the violence, the real toxicity that we do see, unfortunately, still within the ecosystem? That if people were to do that physically in real life, there'd be significant consequences. That isn't necessarily happening in the online space yet, unfortunately. So that link to the police was something that really made us, when we first read it, sit up and think, actually, this is a step forward, and this is what we could and should be doing. Something just to mention something that we're working at British Esports that will come through in the next 6 months. There's a membership platform that we're working on with IBM that creates a safer online space for young people, where there's age verification upon entry, and ID verification upon entry, upon registration, and then the proactive chat moderation that is being delivered by GoBubble that actually stops people from posting hit and return. That message won't be sent from the sender. The receiver won't receive that. It will be blocked by the AI. So we're creating a safer online space through which we can then organise tournaments for young people or for specific demographics within that safer space. This is the type of thing that we hope is going to drive these sorts of conversations further. Derek, coming back to you briefly, can you speak a little bit about maybe the training courses that we're starting to speak about, and the opportunities that we hope we can offer to the education system and to people working in esports?
Just to say that if anyone accesses the NSPC Learning website, we have a range of free online safety advice for parents, professionals, and for children as well. But also we have an online course, Keeping Children Safe Online, which is very, very popular. It costs about £25–30, takes 3 or 4 hours to do, to go through that course. So I'd advise anyone that's working with children online to firstly to take that course, or an equivalent introduction course from another organisation. But we're in the process of developing a face-to-face or a virtual one-day advanced training for professionals who work within esports. We're going to be working with Tom and British Esports to bring that content. But also we're working with Global Esports Federation, preparing some training materials for them to be used for coaching. So I think, Tom, you'll be in a better position to talk about that, how we're working together.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we're doing is developing a coaching framework around esports, and an introduction to esports coaching will be available hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks. That'll be released, but then as part of that is a duty to care in esports that will be free and available to all, that will cover safeguarding, online safety, mental health, EDI, and health and well-being, to really sort of set the standards, basically, to set that expectation essentially that doesn't currently exist. So that will be coming further down the line. Sarah, in terms of the positive side, the positive solutions, do you want to feed into something little here?
Yeah, of course. So Go Bubble is very much a holistic approach. So whereby there is any user-generated content out there that we can help to shield and protect and create safer spaces. So as I've said, whether that's organisations, whether that's individuals, we work across social media platforms. We also plug into internal ecosystems, so across any communications internally, whether that's your intranets from a company perspective, through to any community-based apps as well. It's very much the AI is continually developing, and from an esports perspective, we're working more and more as well with platforms that have that are working with us to basically build it in within their platform that they already have. From a positive perspective, we're just continually driving to support, protect, shield anywhere where there is a digital community. And as I say, that's across, all multimedia channels. So any space that children are within, obviously in esports, it's a seamless approach.
Fantastic, thank you. I think what we just wanted to highlight was the things that are happening, the positives that are the opportunities to recognise the risks that exist and the solutions that are being put into place or are being thought about to address these things. I'm conscious this is quite a hot topic, to be honest, and so we've got 5 minutes left, also the clock tells me over there, and we'll offer the opportunity out to ask any questions. Having Derek here from the NSPCC is great for us and shows the seriousness, essentially, with which we at British Esports are taking this and the seriousness with which the NSPCC are taking this whole space. Are there any, if we put the lights up, or I know there's Bernardo, Saul's got the mic there. If there are any questions, please stick hands up. I think I can see one. Oh, there we go. And there's back there.
Great talk. So have you had any discussions with the games publishers? I mean, let's say there's currently 40 esports on the planet. There won't be 40 publishers. There'll be less than that. Have you had discussions whereby they could, hook up, and basically players that just don't accord to the standards that they set are just like interoperably shut off everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that the reporting aspect of the service offers is that we'll be able to see repeat offenders. So then you can make a decision. Obviously, it's very much we support freedom of speech, so we're not able to actually block, but what we can do is hide, obviously, the posts, the comments that are coming through, and we give the user then the decision as to what they want to see and actually hear. But the reporting aspect of things in the background, you actually get access to a dashboard, so you'll actually be able to continually see if there's a repeat offender and then take action based on how critical potentially the content is.
Derek, are you aware of any conversations that have been having at your level, the NSPCC level, with organisations like that, or is it something?
I'm not aware of any of the conversations. I think it's really got to be an organisation like Global Esports, sort of international, that gets all the publishers together, because we aren't going to have a FIFA or an equivalent of an FA, and it's going to have to come from all the publishers, all the organisations working together to safeguard children. We're not going to have an equivalent association. But from British Esports point of view, have any discussions? Do you see that as a way forward to work with the publishers?
I think it is. Certainly using Andy's expertise and his standing status is something that we can try and do, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah. Apologies. Is that working? Yeah. The difference between sport and esports is that, as I said earlier, no one owns sport, all right? But whereas esports are owned, they're owned by a publisher. That publisher's got incredible power. It can just switch people off. It's as simple as that. And they know all about they've got the data sets on the players. They will always try and deflect this to sort of, free speech. It's a classic American, everyone should be able to say everything. Well, maybe not that bit. This is kind of rubbish. And I think there's definitely conversations globally with publishers. because it's in their interest. Their businesses are their online communities, and they're multi-billion annual businesses. It's as simple as that. And they will start to figure out for themselves, if they haven't already, that they've got to take action, because otherwise their games will be toxic. You've seen it with Riot, with League of Legends. You've seen toxicity within the community. You've seen toxicity within the games publishers themselves. So I think there is definitely moves there to be made. I don't think it's impossible at all, Derek, if I'm honest. But it's global. It's got, and then you've got issues of culture. You know, playing Call of Duty, you know, I play, and certain parts of the world, language is different. Attitudes to racism is very different in certain parts of the world. And it's not acceptable to people like me, so I don't play in those communities. Whether, you know, Activision Blizzard King would take a view on that, I don't know. But it gets complicated. None of it's easy. But the publishers have got the power to do what the hell they want.
Yeah, just to clarify, I didn't mean it was impossible for the publishers to take a stand. What I'm talking about is to have an equivalent of FIFA in football, an international governing body. Unless Tom has any thoughts on that, I can't see that happening, because just individual publishers own the different games. And so we're talking about the difference if we try to lump all racket sports together. So table tennis, badminton, squash, all having the same association, the different games. So it's going to be very difficult to have one overriding international body who controls all of these sports.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So those publishers have the responsibility, isn't it? And that, yeah, exactly. Ultimately, we have to be showing the influence we have to be influencing those publishers, and we have to be showing the value or the need, essentially, for them to step in. And it's conversations like this that will start that, essentially. It really will. So look, I appreciate there are other questions. Other people had their hands up. Please, if you want to address that with us, please do it outside afterwards. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Enjoy the rest of your day.